What does it really take to be elite in the MLB? MVPs? Gold Gloves? A 40-homer season that dominates the highlight reels? Kyle Tucker's already checked most of those boxes, and somehow he's still flown under the radar.
And one of the most complete players in all of baseball.
Field, Tucker! It's hell watch, it's gone! It is back, it's gone!
For years, he's been baseball's quiet nightmare, a true five-tool player. 30 homers, 30 steals, top 5 MVP finishes, elite defense, and rock-solid plate discipline. All while staying out of the spotlight. No bat flips, no headlines, just results. But that version of Kyle Tucker, gone. Now, he's a Dodger.
There'd only be a few available players that we felt like would be real needle movers when it comes to bringing another championship to Los Angeles. Kyle Tucker is at the very top of that group.
Hey, quick pause here. I'm Jose, the guy behind Baseball Unleashed. If you're enjoying this, hit subscribe. Now let's keep going.
And that should scare the league. He's no longer carrying the weight of the lineup alone. He just slides into one of the most stacked lineups in baseball. And that's when a player like him becomes truly dangerous. Today, we're breaking down why Tucker was already elite before the move, how the Dodgers lineup turns him into a matchup nightmare, and what his ceiling looks like when he's free from the pressure. And here's the scary truth. Kyle Tucker might just be the most complete hitter in baseball.
All hail King Tuck!
And for the first time in his career, he's about to prove it on the biggest stage.
I do.
Plate out. He golfs one here. Deep right field. Kyle Tucker puts the Astros on the board.
For most players, putting up a 30-30 season would be the peak of their career. For Kyle Tucker, that's just another year at the office. And if that sounds wild, here's what people forget. He's been doing this kind of damage since he was a teenager. Before he became King Tuck, Kyle Tucker was just a tall, lanky kid in Tampa, Florida, quietly rewriting record books. At Henry B. Plant High School, he launched 31 home runs, more than anyone in school history. Same high school as Wade Boggs, by the way. The accolades weren't just hype, they were industry-wide signals. Tucker played in the Perfect Game All-American Classic, was named Florida's Gatorade Player of the Year, and entered the draft as one of the cleanest bats in the class. And even though he committed to the University of Florida, he never made it there. Because that same year, the Houston Astros picked him 5th overall in the 2015 MLB draft and handed him a $4 million signing bonus. And just like that, King Tuck was in the system. But talent only gets you noticed. Consistency keeps you around. Tucker played rookie ball with the Greenville Astros, then Single-A Quad Cities, then Lancaster. By 2018, he forced the call-up. And when he finally stuck, the pattern didn't change. Tucker produced, while the spotlight stayed parked on louder names. You know him, Shohei, Judge, Soto, all deserving. But Tucker, the dude's been right there with them, just without the headlines. So this is kind of where I'm curious. Why do fans respect Tucker, but just don't talk about him the way they talk about superstars? Is it personality, market, or the fact that he doesn't sell his moments? Because, let's be clear, Kyle Tucker isn't becoming elite. He already is. Over the past several seasons, his WRC Plus has lived in the 130 to 145 range, meaning he creates offense 35 to 45% better than the average hitter. That's the profile of a lineup didn't stop at the plate. Defensively, Tucker has been one of the steadiest right fielders in baseball, and in 2022, that turned into hardware, a Rawlings Gold Glove Award. Not because he dives for cameras, but because his reads, roots, and arm turn tough plays into routine outs. Then there's the speed. Tucker isn't just fast, he's efficient. He pressures pitchers, forces rush throws, and turns routine plays into pure stress. He changes games without ever raising his voice. And yes, even elite players have things they aren't perfect at. Tucker can still get tempted by sliders that start on the plate and drift away, especially when pitchers are trying to bait him in big spots. That's the tax of being disciplined and dangerous. But the reason he stays elite is simple. He adjusts fast and doesn't spiral. And maybe that's why he's been overlooked. Baseball loves headlines. Tucker doesn't chase them. He just shows up and goes to work. But that era is over. because now he's wearing Dodger blue. And the numbers aren't changing, but the context is. Before Kyle Tucker ever put on Dodger blue, the Dodgers were already one of the most complete teams in baseball. A machine that didn't just win, it overwhelmed opponents with depth and discipline. Then they added one of the most complete hitters in the game, and the league reacted exactly how you'd expect. Kyle Tucker wasn't some lucky bounce or desperation move. The Dodgers identified a player whose game fits perfectly with how they already win and paid for the upgrade. And for Tucker, the move makes just as much sense. For the first time in his career, he doesn't have to be the swing that rescues an inning. He gets to slide into a lineup that already creates pressure on every at-bat. For years in Houston, his plate appearances often carried extra weight. When innings tightened or momentum stalled, pitchers treated him as the hitter who couldn't get a mistake. That meant sequences built around the edges, fastballs just off, breaking balls below the zone, long at-bats designed to avoid damage. He still produced, but he earned it through adjustment. But in LA, he's surrounded by monsters. Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith. That's not a lineup you just ease through. Dodger Stadium doesn't inflate offense overall, but left-handed hitters who drive the ball to right field can benefit when the ball carries at night. Tucker's pull-side power fits that profile. Now, imagine the pitcher's path through that order. You deal with Betts' discipline. You survive Ohtani's power. You try not to give Freeman something he can line into a gap. And Tucker is still waiting. Here's the biggest difference. In Houston, pitchers could afford to extend at-bats against him, working the margins to avoid the middle of the plate. With elite hitters stacked around him in LA, that luxury shrinks. Falling behind early or missing location carries immediate consequences. So the approach tightens. More competitive pitches earlier in counts. More strikes pitchers have to trust. Fewer sequences built purely to waste. And Tucker doesn't need many pitches to do damage. His swing decisions and contact ability allow him to capitalize when he gets something he can handle. That's the shift from being the focal problem to just being part of a chain of problems. If Tucker is hitting 5th or 6th, which is realistic, pitchers can't afford to work around him because the next hitter keeps the pressure alive. So here's a question for you. Where would you hit Kyle Tucker in this Dodgers lineup? 5th, 6th, or higher? Drop it in the comments. But there's a version of Kyle Tucker we haven't even seen yet, and that should terrify the league. No more pitching around him. No more make him beat you logic. Now, you actually have to pitch to Kyle Tucker, and look at what Tucker has already done without protection. Last season in Chicago, he hit .284 with a .369 on-base percentage, launched 29 home runs, led the American League with 112 RBIs, despite missing time late in the year with a shin injury. He still posted an .869 OPS and stole 30 bases. Even with an injury-shortened finish, he nearly pulled off another 30-30 season. And he did all of that while seeing more pitches per plate appearance than almost anyone. He's already one of the most disciplined, exhausting at-bats in baseball. And now he's surrounded by Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, and Freddie Freeman. Do you think anybody in the NL West can dethrone the Dodgers? Let me know in the comments. Kyle Tucker could realistically hit 40 home runs, drive in 120 RBIs, swipe 25 bases, and post a .400 on base percentage. That's not fantasy. That's math. His barrel rate jumped to 13.4% in 2023, the top 10% of hitters. Chase rate, elite. He swings at good pitches and almost nothing else. Baseball Savant consistently grades him near the top in expected slugging, hard hit rate, and exit velocity. If anything, he's been underperforming his expected numbers. Now add context. More fastballs, more runners on base, more pressure on pitchers who can't afford mistakes. That's not improvement, that's acceleration. Tucker doesn't just punish pitchers, he breaks rotations. He's a pitch count killer. In 2023, he averaged 4.15 pitches per plate appearance, one of the highest marks among qualified hitters. And that doesn't just wear out starters, it alters entire series. Game 2 of a division series. The starter has battled Betts and Ohtani, and he's at 40 pitches by the second inning. Now comes Tucker. He fouls off a tough breaking ball, spits on a slider that barely misses, takes a fastball the other way, maybe you even get him out. But now you're at 60 pitches, and you haven't even seen the 5th inning. That's how Kyle Tucker breaks teams. Every plate appearance is a chess match, not one swing, but constant pressure that wears pitchers down. You want to win a 5-game series? Well, you better hope Kyle Tucker gets himself out, because if he doesn't, your bullpen is cooked by Game 3. We spent a lot of time talking about Shohei, about Soto, about Tatis Jr., and deservedly so. But if you're asking who's about to quietly wreck the league in 2026, it's Kyle Tucker. He's entering his age 29 season, fully healthy, already proven he can produce at an MVP level. And now, he's surrounded by 3 other MVPs. We've never seen this version before. Not in Houston, not in high school, not even in his best years. For the first time in his career, Kyle Tucker doesn't carry the weight. He just destroys from the middle of a lineup full of MVPs. Do you think he can break the system in 2026? Drop your prediction in the comments. And honestly, the rest of the league might want to start stretching. Because if the numbers hold, if the fastballs keep coming, and if Tucker does exactly what he's built to do, he might not just break out. He might break the system.